All right, bro. Time to let out that cry. I know they said we couldn't, but they definitely lied. They said it wasn't manly, that you should hide your emotions from your family and hold it in. But now you're wearing thin, and the next issue you have will make you pop like the pin hitting the balloon. Now your emotions have hit the roof and you can't control what you do. But is that manly? To explode in crisis or to have control? Crying helps you release, helps you cleanse the soul. God gave us tears, so it's okay to use it. I didn't say you got to act like some crybaby, but bro, I know we'd be going through it. Societal expectations, that pressure mounts with aggression, telling me who I'm supposed to be before I know myself. Some of us didn't have that man to mentor us and tell us to go right or left, so we follow what we see. It's not always the man we're supposed to be. We see the user, the abuser, the cheater, and the luster, not the lover, the protector, the man who trusts the woman he's with, doesn't respect her a bit, toxicity with the lack of adaptability to love. What we see seems programmed, and haven't we seen enough? So ask yourself, as a man, do you want positive influence or just control? Both are types of power, but one requires a soul. You're power tripping because your esteem is slipping, and being insecure is no way of living. We were taught some things because of ignorance. We were taught some things to be manipulated. We were taught to explode so we could be shackled and navigated with no control over our life. So we were encouraged to argue. We were encouraged to fight about nothing. We could have talked it out, could have hashed it out, but now you my enemy, you my op. I'm only fighting you because I lack the ability to delve within and recognize the consequences of my actions. I'm just gonna fight and kill you because that's what men do. But that don't make you no man, bro. It's hard to control the fire. It's hard to know what triggered it. A man faces his problems, he knows what caused it. So tears can sometimes extinguish that fire. Stop listening to the blind, following the blind, and look higher. So you can cry, bro. You won't be judged by me. You can cry. It's a vessel to set yourself free. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Pain to Power podcast. This is your host, Justin Banks, and we got a touchy subject to talk about today. We're going to talk about men and our inability to sometimes express ourselves, our inability to talk about our feelings. Now, this is an important topic for man and a woman. I know some of the ladies listening may have an issue with the man in their life. It could be a friend, a partner, or a child, and they're all exuding the same actions. The man is showing silence, or it could be those quick answers like, I'm fine, or nothing's wrong. Or maybe you're being told repeatedly that to have a sensitive side is not a characteristic of a man. We don't cry or express ourselves. We got to just keep pushing against the current that's in front of us. Now, this is an issue that you'll hear no matter the race of man, but some of what you're going to hear is going to come from the experience of myself, a black man. And there are things that we all experience, but there's also been a lot of things, just based on the history of the country that particularly will make a black man not express himself or show his true feelings. And we're going to talk about that as well. So for me, growing up, I was definitely a bit of a crier. So if you were a listener in season one, you may have heard me saying that I cried almost every day in first and second grade. So this kind of characterized me as a crybaby, at least at that time, and I was on a short leash when it came to showing emotion at that point. Now, the tears weren't unnecessary because they were based on fears I had at home. Worried about seeing my father passed out on the floor because he could be sick sometimes, traumatic arguments, etc. These were things that made me sad. Now, I was told by my parents that it was okay to cry, which is great, but crying is just one part of emotion. And looking back, something that possibly should have been said or looked at was the reasoning behind my tears. My dad had some legit health issues, and I was afraid I was going to see him dead on the kitchen floor. That's just how it is. And that's a cause for some emotion and some sadness. But rather than truly addressing that, I sometimes just had to suck it up and stop crying. And what made me stop wasn't the understanding behind my tears. It was honestly fear, or the fear of getting on punishment if I kept crying, or the fear of getting in trouble. Now, this isn't being said to bash my family, of course, but rather than showing that it doesn't matter how much love is shown to the man at a young age, for some reason, it's hard to delve deep to understand the meaning behind a man's emotions. And as a result, this man's emotions and the triggers that cause them are held in. And when the emotions are finally released, it can be released in sometimes violent outbursts or abuse or something that could have been prevented possibly as a child. What's also scary is just that basic shutdown. When a man never just wants to express himself at all or ever again, he becomes a shell of himself. And the part of that man that you want to see is locked away for good. And you know what happens to that man in disproportion to the black man? High blood pressure, heart attacks, strokes, stemming from stress, not released along with other, environmental, societal, and systematic factors. At 9 years old, I broke my arm playing football. Now, as you can imagine, the pain was excruciating, and I was also left handed. So I cried from the pain. I remember being told to stop crying. And you'll hear that a lot in sports to just tough it out. It wasn't believed that I legitimately had a broken arm. I still had a bit of that crybaby sticker across my forehead, so if I did have some pain, it wasn't as severe as I was making it out to be. So I played in the first football game of the season with a broken arm, based on the judgment of how a man should behave with pain, and also fear of what some of the men around me may say or what they will believe about me as a young man. Now, still, I scored 2 touchdowns and wanted to cry the whole time. And finally, I went to the hospital after the game and was finally proven that my tears were warranted. It may seem hard to believe, but those strokes, heart attacks, and violent outbursts can literally stem from events such as this. Constantly being told to fight but not recognize the wounds that you have when you're in them. These wounds left untreated can harm the man and break him down. I hate to say it, it can even kill him. Now, so many men have stories similar to this and some much worse than that. Some men didn't have a father to even tell them about emotion or being a man whatsoever. Just as was recited in the poem, we go searching for someone to tell us what manhood is, and we find the scripted actor on TV or the entertainer. They commit illegalities and they disrespect the people around them. We become men programmed to be in this dog eat dog world, always behaving in the way that takes something from another person rather than instilling something in them. We see this and we bring these actions to our reality and abuse and misuse, and we say that we're being a man. But that couldn't be further from the truth. But conditioning has been profound in programming the actions of genders. I know it can be frustrating when a man doesn't have the ability to open up, but the same conditioning has went on for women too. Conditioned to stay in the house or be subservient to the man, almost to the point that disrespect and control is to be expected from the man, and a woman is just supposed to accept it because that's what being submissive means. Conditioned to always look your best, even when you're feeling like you're worse, to always be selfless and care for others, and rarely look after yourself. Then, as a man, we are taught not necessarily to be leaders, but oppressors over the women in our lives, to have the never ending thirst for power and rule over women around us, because that's what men need to be powerful. But how has these traditional roles worked out? Divorce rates continue to rise. You sometimes hear baby mama and baby daddy rather than mother and father or husband and wife. The roles have seemed to cause some form of disconnect and divide. It's like love and the work to create and maintain it is frowned upon. And when there is no love, there is no trust. And why would I open up to someone that I don't trust? Why would I, as a man, open up to someone that I feel is temporary? We as men and women now sometimes just see each other as flesh, just to have sex with and have babies and toxic relationships. We don't see the complex soul full of happiness, full of sadness, full of dreams, and full of nightmares. We don't look deep enough to see the spirit underneath the physical clay. You might be able to see what's playing on the TV screen, but it's the electricity and the wires connected beneath the screen that make everything work. To know the chords and strings of a person is truly knowing who someone is, not just what's portrayed on their physical screen. But how often do we do that? To only have sex and to argue our emotions is not true communication. Then this conditioning goes a bit deeper. Now you're going to hear trigger word. Sometimes people don't want to hear for a myriad of reasons, but we got to talk about it. Slavery. Don't leave the episode yet because this is where the truth is. It's crazy that this history is frowned upon, but there are many systematic reasons why slavery's treacherous history does not want to be talked about. Its effects still ripple through our country, and we don't like to face the truth sometimes. It took years for New Orleans to recover, and it still is in ways after Hurricane Katrina. California is still recovering from wildfires. We're still feeling the ripple effects of 9/11. Traumatic events impact us for years, and slavery wasn't a year or a decade. It wasn't a century. It was 4 centuries. And with that come generations of ripple effects, whether you like it or not. This could be talked about forever, but I'm going to narrow it down to the lack of communication amongst many black men. When my ancestors were brought over on ships, many of them were already separated from their families when they were kidnapped. Throughout the centuries of slavery on U.S. soil, there may have been families created on the plantation, but so often men and women were sold to other slave masters, once again breaking up the black family. And to constantly have love being taken away from you is traumatic. Think about your last breakup. How quick were you to trust the next person who came into your life? Now imagine your loved one was beaten in front of you and taken away. Imagine they were raped in front of you and then taken away. Imagine your wife having your child, but also having a slave master's child as well. Imagine after all of that, the mother and father are then sold off and taken away. Can you imagine the effects this has on a family? Number one, I'm seeing that every time I love someone or something is taken away. This can make someone not want to get close to anyone anymore because of the expectation that it won't last forever. And as stated before, there are gender roles, but then there are slavery gender roles as well. The man and woman were just bodies used to create more babies, or actually more slaves. They were bodies who were just supposed to breed. Another situation where there is no emotion, just the physical clay connecting, but not the soul. And this lack of connection is based out of fear. This lack of connection is based out of pain. This lack of connection is based out of trauma. These ripple effects have become Jim Crow and the disproportionate mass incarceration of African Americans. And you see, once again, many people divided and not together. Temporary relationships based on centuries of permanent separation of people we should be connected to. Now, you're not supposed to just open up to anybody, and that's something I try to be very careful of. There's that fear of using my truths and vulnerabilities to hurt me and manipulate me. It's scary to trust someone with some of the things I hold dear to me. The things that hold dear to me, and think about this, the things that hold dear to me as a man have survived and climbed the tall walls of social conditioning, the lack of education on expression, the ripple effects of a 400 plus year trauma, the trauma of my own childhood, etc., etc. For me to open up to you about things that made it past those obstacles is extremely difficult. How do I know that I can trust you? I haven't been taught that. How can I communicate calmly and openly? No one's ever really shown us men that. So best believe he has feeling, but that heart is locked away for a multitude of reasons. So when a man does open up, I ask that you don't abuse it. Don't break the trust that has been built because it can affect the relationship for the worst. So what do we do though? How do we change? Well, definitely it seems like what we've been doing is not working. There needs to be a new education in terms of relationships in order to build trust amongst us once again. It must first start with ourselves first. When it comes to us as men, there needs to be men on all platforms, big and small, talking about the importance of opening up and expressing what we feel. Number one, we have a right to, but it's also so helpful for us when it comes to our emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental health. Holding things in is rarely good for us. So the education must be retaught to debunk and defeat the stereotype that communication is not manly, that expressing what you feel is not manly. To be able to control yourself in times of crisis reflects true manhood. That means you can remain stable and be a rock for your family. It shows leadership and protection. You shouldn't feel like you have to abuse someone to feel powerful, feel like a man. A real man already has enough power within him to fulfill purpose or destiny. He goes to God when he needs direction. He goes to God when he needs to understand the lessons that provide power to fulfill prophecy. You don't get it when you denigrate someone. Bullies aren't powerful. A bully is just the strongest weak person in the room, and that's not impressive at all. Now, don't get me wrong, there are moments where I may feel like I have some doubt about myself when it comes to new challenges that may come my way. I'm still trying to work on that. But for the most part, I am pretty confident in myself. I believe in myself and work hard to unlock the power within. I'm only able to do this because I first tried to acknowledge my weaknesses. I cry and I accept that I cry sometimes and I'm okay with my tears. I work to analyze the reasoning for my tears and I still do. I open up to people that I do trust. I open up to release tension. And I also want to say that there are a multitude of ways to release that tension. Working out, meditating, getting massages, all that can help release some stress. Taking that walk or doing some yoga can provide some relief. You combine all of these actions together and you have a toolkit that can take away some stress. So I do want to talk to you, bro. Talk to you as a man and tell you that opening up is to help you. It's for your benefit. Holding in your pain is like holding in, all the knives that have stabbed you and hurt you. Eventually there's a great chance that you're going to bleed out and that provides trauma for everyone around you. So go to the right places and to the right people who can safely release what's damaged you and help you heal your wounds. That's the hard part, but that's the powerful part. That's where the power is. You don't have to do it alone because I'm a man who is expressing myself weekly to let you know that you're not alone. I have angst. I have tons of anger and sadness, but I also have some fight. I have vulnerability to look for areas that will make me feel better. I take my time to trust someone, and when I do, I feel like I can open up, but I only do it if I'm comfortable. Now, I'm always asked, like, Justin, do you get mad? Like, where's your angry side? Now, of course, I have that side just like everyone, but for the most part, that angry side is released and let go. It's been released through therapy, it's been released through fitness or eating the right foods, so I don't feel down and out all the time. I look for tools and I try to hold on to them tightly so I can combat this crazy world. I'm recording this podcast on a day that really hasn't been great. It's really been a bad day. But guess what? I'm trying my absolute best to not hold it in, but to release it here or through my writing. So my hope is that you can find areas to release your pain in a safe way too. Hope you can find that confidant that you can be comfortable expressing yourself to. You don't need a bunch of people. A bunch of people should know your business anyway. But I hope you find someone. May we all have a better tomorrow than we have today. I want you to be an expressive man. I want you to be a powerful man. Amen.